one of the best things that Dave Doran has done for NC State is kept them at a level where their floor is higher than a lot of other teams. You're not maybe going to have the best seasons, the high ceiling seasons that some of these other teams do, but you are definitely not going to have those low floors like other teams do as well. You kind of are always in contention, and you're a team that's going to be competitive. And they made some changes this year that could make them better as well. The 10 guys that we'll talk about today will make an impact on whether or not they can improve upon an 8-5 season. And we'll just dive right into it. The defensive side of the ball lost quite a bit of talent. They also returned some really exciting players too, and they add players in the transfer portal as well. Noah Potter comes in, and he could have a bigger impact than he did previously. You look, he's 6'6", 274 pounds, good size to add to the defensive side of the ball. This is a defense that has quite a few veterans, and they're going to get everybody up to speed. Even though you lose quite a bit of talent, specifically at linebacker, even in the secondary, you talk about. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but the defensive line figures to be just fine. And adding a guy like Noah Potter is a huge addition for them. Another player coming in from Clemson, the offensive side of the ball, is DACARI Collins, 6'4", 215 pounds. He brings that big frame that you saw with King Butler. You look at NC State's had some big guys in the past, and they've done well. And now you bring in Robert and I to run this offense, and a guy like Collins could have a big year because they expect someone to be able to make big plays for this offense, to make big plays downfield and stretch the defense. A guy like Collins could be that guy. We didn't see it at Clemson, but the talent is there. The potential is there to do that. The player is going to compete for the starting job. Maybe he's not going to win it this year, but appears to be the future of NC State is MJ Morris. You saw him get good time as a freshman last year. He was kind of thrust into that starting role, and you saw some success, 648 yards, 7 touchdowns, and just 1 pick. And again, he's probably not going to win the starting job with the guy we'll talk about later, but he is someone to keep an eye on in terms of the future of NC State football. That's something just really exciting if you're a Wolfpack fan. And if Anai sticks around, Morris could have a fun career when it's all said and done. Flipping back to the defense, JAKEEN Harris comes back at safety. Again, this secondary lost a couple of pieces, but I think that this group will be just fine in 2023. It was a group that wasn't elite in terms of stopping the pass, 71st best in the country last year, but guys like JAKEEN Harris will make life easier for some of the new guys that have to step up and play bigger roles. A guy who has to do that on offense is Jordan Houston. The running back comes in after you lose one player to the transfer portal. That is not something that they wanted to see, but a guy like Jordan Houston has plenty of experience, over 1,200 yards for his career, and someone who really was fun to watch when he was on the field and making plays in 2022. Now, what does that mean for him this year? Robert and I will find ways to get him the football. We'll find ways to open up running lanes. It's just a matter of what he can do with it. Houston has the talent to be able to make that happen, and I think that's the thing with this team. The talent is there. I don't think anybody's questioning how talented this team is. It's just a matter of putting it all together. And when you look at what Robert and I did in his time and at his previous stops, this offense should be in good hands, and you shouldn't have too many concerns, which is good because this is a group that finished in the bottom half of college football in a lot of categories. That's not exactly inspiring if you're an NC State fan, but that's why you bring in Robert and I. That's why you bring someone like him in, is to fix things and create a more explosive unit. And that's going to help this defense quite a bit. Now, we talked about the secondary and what it can do. SHYHEIM Battle is another player that comes back, 6'2", 195 pounds. I like his size that he brings to the table, and I like his production. He's been a solid producer for this team, a veteran player that knows how to make plays, how to get the football back to his offense. And if you're able to give Robert and I more opportunities to put points on the board, this will be a much better offense than it was in 2022. The guy that's going to run the show, the guy that had the most success when he was under Robert and I at Virginia 2 years ago, is Brennan Armstrong. Last year, not exactly the best season for him, over 2,200 yards, but 7 touchdowns and 12 picks. That's not great, honestly, But again, what he did under Robert and I 2 years ago is probably the biggest thing you need to focus on. And that's what I will choose to focus on because the potential for this group to get better. And I think you see an upgrade in terms of talent. It's just a matter of what does the lefty do? And honestly, if Brennan Armstrong can't get it done, MJ Morris is sitting there and I think has the potential to be an exciting player in a nice system. The offense is the X factor. There's no question about that because the defense returns so much talent and so much experience that you essentially just expect them to continue doing what they're doing. David Vann is one of those guys as well on the defensive line, someone who I think is a really exciting player, someone who could be even better statistically than he was in 2022, and the talent around him will help that as well. 8 tackles for loss, 4.5 sacks, someone who, again, is proven to be disruptive, knows how to make plays, and will continue doing that. And again, that experience he brings back, it's something you really like to have returning. Going to the back end of the defense, Aiden White comes back, and again, the secondary could be so fun to watch. White had 4 interceptions last year, and he brings a good amount of talent and maybe pretty decent size at 6 feet, 185 pounds. Maybe you want to see him add a little bit of weight in the offseason. But I really like what this secondary has returning. I like the group that they have back, and I like what they could do defensively. Again, the linebacker position probably loses the most talent of anyone, the most production. So you're going to have guys like Aiden White that need to step up to give them time to figure things out. And the cupboard's not bare, though. It's the best thing. Peyton Wilson does come back. And when you talk about Peyton Wilson and you look at his production, 264 career tackles, 30 and a half tackles for loss, 4 interceptions. Honestly, going into this year, I never looked at his height and weight because I never thought to look at it. I just assumed he was your typical 6 feet, 250 pounds. This dude's 6'4", and it's probably contributed a lot to what he's had success doing. And he's really fun to watch on the field. You look at a natural playmaker, and when you look at what you lose Drake Thomas, you lose Isaiah Moore. Bringing in Peyton Wilson was one of the best things they did for this program, and he is back for another year. And he missed some time last year with injuries, and if he's able to stay healthy, this is someone who's going to have a major impact on this program. This is someone who's going to have a major impact on this season. And again, I don't have too many concerns on the defensive side of the ball. Yes, there are certain areas they could take steps forward, but Dave Doran has done a great job of keeping this group intact, keeping the veterans that need to come back and help the new faces get up to speed. Guys like Peyton Wilson will make that happen. Now, the offense, like I said, is the X factor. If the offense takes a step forward, there's a lot to like about the Wolfpack heading into 2023. Now, whether that means they're competing for an ACC championship, I don't think they're in that level. But again, you have raised the floor with Dave Doran, and you know at least that a bowl game is like the minimum requirement. And then you can basically just add wins from there and figure out what kind of season you're going to have. If you're able to take a step forward offensively and the defense stays the same, you're going to have a very successful season, one that NC State fans will be extremely satisfied with when the season's all done.